Good Monday morning, everybody. I hope you all are having a fantastic beginning to your Monday morning and a fantastic beginning to your March. Today is, of course, March 3rd, 2025, and we are welcoming in the beginnings of spring throughout the Northern Hemisphere this fine month. You may notice out my window that we still have snow in abundance here, and we typically don't lose this snow until end of April, kind of thing. So uh, the white stays for quite a while. Um, I was actually going to be doing Middle Earth Monday this morning with the kindly cleric, but he is unfortunately out sick with a headache. So instead, I am streaming for you guys by myself. A little solo stream for you guys this morning. It's been a little while since I streamed to you guys. My webcam had passed away. It decided to stop working there, and I for a little while I was using my cell phone, but the quality wasn't great, and it drained my battery quite severely. So I made some endeavors to get a new setup. So I've got currently my husband's DSLR camera working as a webcam, and it doesn't work too bad. The only qualm I have is the battery life isn't the greatest, and because of how old the camera is, it won't allow me to plug in a cord to supply the battery source. I have to manually change out the little camera battery. So I have about 2 hours of battery life from when I first turn on the camera to when it decides to die. So if we end up streaming for right around that 2 hour mark today, and my camera does die, I will switch to my phone. But that is, I will warn you, a way lower quality image. But we will roll with the punches on that today. I actually I woke up this morning at like 5 a.m. Just because I'm getting ready to go back to work from my maternity leave. I've been on maternity leave almost for an entire year now. Um, my baby was born March 26th. So on March 24th is my 1 year mark, and when I'm supposed to be returning back to work at the office here. So our routine has kind of been disrupted a little bit. That has also affected my ability to stream whenever I want to, because now my baby is waking up more frequently in the mornings, and just wanting to go and play, and having longer wake windows, that kind of thing. So we did wake up early this morning in preparation for Middle Earth Monday. So I got him down to bed about 45 minutes before I would typically start streaming. Um, so I figured, you know what, we're gonna use this opportunity. I can't tell you how long he's going to sleep for. He only had about 4 hours sleep last night, and he's been asleep for roughly 45 minutes now. Um, so he could wake up at any point now, but we will get through what we can this morning. Um, some interesting things. So, to talk about Lord of the Rings 5e to start us off, I was kind of peeking around the websites, looking for the hot gossip regarding our Lord of the Rings 5e system. And there is some rumors coming down the mill. The first rumor is that there is a adventure book coming for us based out of Eriador. I don't know where in Eriador, but there was some photos posted on Facebook by Francesco. Oh, what is his name? I can't remember his exact name. Wait, let me grab you guys the exact name. Francesco Nepetillo. So he posted some teasers on his Facebook page. One photo of a playtest that they were doing with a big map of Eriador. And they had said that they are working on an adventure for Eriador. Some other stuff that he has hinted about on his Facebook page is that there are dark clouds gathering in the south. Whether that is Rohan or Gondor, we're not too sure, but he has hinted, quote, Rohan is getting closer. And then someone had made a comment asking about Gondor, and he said, let's just say this, Rohan and Gondor are close to each other. So we do know that in the initial plan that Free League Publishing put out, they were planning on following the path of the Fellowship with the types of settings books and adventure books that they were putting out. So thus far we've had the Shire, Eriador, we've gone to I was going to say Mordor, Moria, and then now to Lothlorien in the Keepers of the Elven Rings book series, or settings book. So next up is, of course, going into the Anduin, and then to Rohan, that kind of area. And then as they travel southwards, eventually Gondor, and then Mordor. So we will see just what sort of things will be released by them, but some exciting stuff coming down the line for us there. Speaking of Moria, tonight, if you guys have not been watching, maybe you didn't know that we play this, maybe it just doesn't align for your schedules. We will be playing, doing a live play of The Long Dark of Moria, a Lord of the Rings 5e adventure that I am a player in. This is hosted, and the game master is the Kindly Cleric, who is our lore master. And right now we're going on to which one is it? I think it's session 4 this evening. So that will be at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, if you live on the East Coast. And we just finished going through the Troll Shaws, and we are just arrived at the end of the last session in Rivendell. So we're going to actually have a council. I know that Elrond's there, Gandalf's there. We've got some exciting conversations to occur here. I have my suspicions about what is actually going to occur, what the quest is going to be. My personal thoughts is we're probably going to seek out the acts of dying, but I guess we will see. Um, so if you guys are not watching I already, please tune in tonight. We've got some exciting cast members. We've got a Linden elf named Nara. We've got a Ranger of the North. Where is she? She's a messenger named sorry, not Arwen, Arden. Um, we've got two sets of hobbits. So we've got a what do you call it? Oh, my brain is not working this morning. We've got a I'm trying to remember what she is. She calls herself a governess, but I think her actual her actual oh, what is it? Man, my brain has just flown the coop this morning. Um, but yeah, we've got a couple hobbits, and then we've got a man of Bree. So we've got a decent cast. I will be playing Tora. She is a captain, Iron Hills dwarves captain. And she's all up in glory and that kind of stuff. We did just level up at the end of last session, so we are now going on to level 2, which is a bit more interesting than seeing a bunch of people play some level 1 characters. So please tune in. You can either catch the live stream. The Kindly Cleric does a live stream. I also have been doing a live stream with the player side of things. So if you guys want to catch my live stream, feel free to tune in. I'm hoping that my husband will not have to work late tonight, but we will see. It's always hard when you're trying to play a game and your baby is up and crawling everywhere and trying to get your attention and not be held and all that stuff. So, what else is there? What else? Moving on to D&D type stuff. So on our server, the Forged Concordance, which is a Westmarch server, if any of you guys are interested in playing Dungeons and Dragons, but maybe you haven't been able to find a group to play a campaign, or maybe you just don't have a stable enough schedule to play in a campaign, or maybe you just have never played D&D and want to test it out. Please head over to our Discord server. It's called the Forged Concordance. You can find the link on my Twitch page. The Forged Concordance is a Westmarch style place server. And so what we do in a Westmarch style is it is a living world style. We've got about 100, maybe just over 100 dungeon masters who all weave their games into the living world that we've created, the existing setting. It is a homebrewed fantasy setting in a world called Galdrisset. And we are mercenaries for a guild called the Forged Concordance. And so the Forged Concordance takes jobs, and we go out and we complete those jobs for various quest givers throughout Vaskala, throughout Daloon, which is the nation that that the guild is based out of, and throughout the world of Galdrisset. So if you guys are interested, please head over. We are, excuse me. Sorry about that. We are actually looking at our next server event. So we're just in the planning stages of that right now. It's been a lot of big brain sit down and focus type work for me, which is not something that I have excelled in since giving birth. So uh, we'll see how it goes. But I'm thinking that it's going to be a fun event. So uh, hopefully hopefully it will be well received. And if you guys are curious about it, please join our server. We're probably going to have, I want to say it's probably going to be about 6 weeks before our go live on the server event. It might be a month, but realistically, I'm thinking probably about 6 weeks. So that has kept me busy, the planning for the server event. And then the meat and potatoes of what we're going to talk about today is something that I kind of got fixated on. So it all started because of a few dungeon masters that I know, or game masters that I know, have been coming out with new and upcoming campaigns, and all of them have been very notable pop culture games. So it's stuff like Back to the Future, Harry Potter, Vampire the Masquerade, Lord of the Rings, that kind of stuff. Star Wars, Star Trek, the list goes on. And these have been run mainly by the Kindly Cleric or It's Rain, who is the DM who runs the Death Save Society, if you want to go check that out on Twitch. So these two dungeon masters, and even a couple other dungeon masters I know, have been running notable pop culture type games. And it's been calling out to me. I've been wanting to run a one-shot, but timing has been abysmal for running one-shots for people. I've been really struggling to get people to coordinate their schedules to run a one-shot. And I was like, oh man. But really what I want to do is I want to run a campaign. And I kind of debated like running a Lord of the Rings campaign. I was like, no. If and when I decide to run a Lord of the Rings campaign, I want to do it right. I want to dedicate the time to run my campaign. I don't want to be, I don't want it to feel rushed or incomplete. I want it to be perfection. Because I really admire Lord of the Rings. I admire the world. I admire the system. So I don't want to rush a Lord of the Rings campaign. But something else that came to mind when I was thinking about potential campaign ideas was, man, speaking of pop culture, there's a book series, and some of you might be familiar with it. It's the Empyrean book series, otherwise known as, or more commonly known as, the Fourth Wing book series. So Fourth Wing is the first book in the Empyrean series there, and it has captivated a large portion of young adult audiences. It does tend to be more gravitated towards the female side of the fantasy fiction section. But I do know tons of males who also like the Fourth Wing series. And the premise of Fourth Wing is there is a war college with 4 quadrants. They've got the infantry quadrant, which is ground forces, a lot of kind of army type people. They've got the healers quadrant, which is, of course, healers. They've got the scribes quadrant, which is the learned, studied, studious book people who do all the cataloging, all of the record keeping. They look after the historical records, the upkeep of data, that kind of stuff. And then finally, they have the riders quadrant. And you might be like, oh, like horse riders. No, dragon riders. And the riders quadrant is really where the book series takes place and where it's all based around is, we kind of touch on a little bit of stuff in the other three quadrants, but the riders quadrant is where the interesting stuff is happening. And it is gritty, it is bloody, it is violent. There's a whole lot of really cool combat narration and bodily horror narration. It is rough and tough. Lots of characters in this book series die because it is a perilous quadrant. It is a bloodthirsty quadrant. Everyone, the idea is that they've got different wings so they've got the four quadrants, but inside the riders quadrant there are four wings. So there's first wing, second, third, and fourth wing. Underneath those wings, they've got sections. I think if I remember correctly, it's claw section, flame section, and tail section, if I remember correctly. And then underneath each section, they've got squads. And each squad is roughly 8 to 12 folks with a squad leader. In your squad, those are the only people you can trust 100%, because everyone else is free game to kill you in this series. So in your squad, these are the only people who aren't allowed to kill you. They might not like you, but they can't stab you in the back. They can't challenge you to a combat. They can't, poison you or harm you in any way. So your squad is really the only people that you can actually trust. Everyone else is free range to take you out. Part of this is weeding out the weak people in the potential army. So you have 3 years of this war college, and then when you graduate the third year, you become a rider for the military, and you enter into the army as a rider, and you have to serve as a dragon rider for the beck and call of the royalty in this continent. But nation, not continent. But the interesting thing is that you go through so many trials and so many tribulations and hard-earned victories, and you go through injuries, feats of courage, feats of physical prowess, feats against other riders who might hurt you, and leading up to all that, or as you go through all that in your first year, eventually you get to a point where you get to bond with a dragon. And there's various different colors, various different tail types, and they all have their own personalities and that kind of stuff. And once you bond with a dragon, you are able to produce what's called a signet. And the signet is a representative. It is a special power that you manifest representative of your unique relationship between you and your dragon. Um, no two signets, or no two, a dragon can bond with multiple riders throughout their life. Um, but the bond that that dragon has with different riders will not always produce the same signet. Um, of course, being a more powerful dragon is more likely that you will produce a powerful signet as a rider. But because, this person over here bonded with this dragon and got this signet, if that rider dies, and that dragon comes to bond with another rider in the future, there's no telling what kind of signet that dragon will produce with that rider. Um, so, with this book series that has, it's, a New York Times bestseller and all that stuff, and it's, I think right now, there's like a 2-year wait list to get the book from my local library, which is not just a local library, but like from a plethora of libraries throughout our province. It's a 2-year wait list to get one of, I think there's 90 copies of the book out there, so it's quite a long wait list to get a copy of this book. Anyways, I thought to myself, it would be really cool to run a campaign based on Fourth Wing book series. But there's a problem. There's no tabletop roleplay system that can emulate the type of stuff that you can do in the Fourth Wing book series. And I did my darn, like I did a ton of research. I probably read through, I don't know, 30 or 40 different tabletop roleplay games. Granted, in the grand scheme of things, when you think about how many tabletop roleplay games there are out there, that's a drop in the bucket. But I did a lot of research into various types of games. I looked at very popular systems. I looked at systems that allowed you to have like a secondary companion or a mount or a beast that you controlled, or just like a buddy. I looked at systems where there's a lot of combat systems and lots of army tactics, and really that gritty, harsh combat systems. I looked at stuff that has a lot of epic narrative segments and grandiose moments of triumph and failure, and things where benefits and costs are way heavy on the players. I looked through a lot of systems, and I could not find anything that really captured what I feel is important about giving you guys, or giving players, I should say, a Fourth Wing book experience. So I decided I'm gonna write a tabletop roleplay game. I have never done this before. It's something brand new to me. But I have had experience with various tabletop roleplay games in the past, both as a player, as a game master. I have customized portions of those game systems to fit the type of game I want to portray, or new like niche systems that I want to represent. One in particular was a insanity system that I had come up with to represent a kind of a haunted house game that I was rolling with for a part of a greater storyline. But I've come up with unique things in the past. So it isn't so much outside my realm of capability to apply that creativity, but on a larger scale. I have started to write one. And you may be asking yourself, like, how do you write a tabletop roleplay game? Well, I'm glad you guys asked, because that's what I'm here to talk about this morning. Um, so, uh, we're gonna jump right into it. So the first thing that I have learned that you need to establish when you decide to write a tabletop roleplay game is why. Why do you want to write this? Because the why is an important motivation. Saying, oh, I just want to do this because my buddy's doing it is not a good motive. Well, it could be a really good motivation for you, but it's not necessarily something that will keep you going for a long time. In the research I have done, some people say that it takes them years to write a tabletop roleplay game. I don't know if it's going to take me years. We're just getting started on this now. I just started it, a few weeks ago. But some people say that it is a years-long process to write a tabletop roleplay game. And that might sound like out of line in a unexperienced person's opinion. But when you think about it, you have to first come up with the mechanics, figuring out the mathematics, the design that you want to do, all the character creation process, the dice systems, all that stuff. You had to figure out all that stuff. Then you have to write it down in a legible format, wordsmithing, grammar, chapters, all that stuff. You outline it into a book format, so the designing of the page layouts and that kind of stuff. And then you add in a art or assets that you need, sheets. Then you have to look at publishing it, and maybe even going as far as to create a working system with that on a virtual tabletop such as Foundry, for example. So it is reasonably a very long process when you think about all the different things that you have to do. What I would like to do for this, so the reason that I decided to write this tabletop roleplay game is because I think that is a fun system that, or I think that is a fun concept of a system that represents a largely underrepresented part of tabletop roleplay games. Because who doesn't want to be a dragon rider? Who doesn't want to have your own giant, terrifying beast and exemplify that as a character in a system? Who doesn't like, nitty gritty combats where it's epic? There's war, there's tactics involved, formations of your army, big life or death sequences, high stakes scenarios, training, becoming an expert at martial arts. That stuff to me sounds really cool. And I think that because of how popular the book series is, I think that that's actually a fantasy that a lot of people have. I know that when I played, Skyrim, for example, like, it was cool to kill a dragon, but, it was really cool also to take in that dragon's essence and gain powers because of that. I think that it just would have been really, really cool to be a dragon rider in Skyrim, given how many dragons there were. But, looking even at How to Train Your Dragon, that is also a popular, maybe not book series, but a popular movie series. And that is, again, that fantasy, a bunch of various different types of dragons, being able to build a trusting relationship with it, bond with it, be able to gain experience and unlock new abilities with your dragon. Like that's just cool. So that is my why. My motivation is, I think that this is an underrepresented market that could really, really be utilized, or a new system could be utilized better. As for our next part, now I have done a bit of research into all of this stuff because I'm brand new to this. So all the sources that I have looked at have agreed that the next step after you establish why you want to do this is figuring out how you are going to resolve your resolution mechanics. So, for example, some people use dice systems. Some people use card systems. Some people want just random probabilities. Some people want point buys. Some people want a quick yes or no system. Figuring out your resolution system, I think, is a step that you have to come back to multiple times as you develop the system, or at least it's a step that I keep coming back to as I develop the system, because I have realized that it's not just okay, I'm going to use a D20, or a 2D6 system for my resolution stuff. Sometimes there are points in which your resolution system doesn't meet the bill of the different mechanics that you're trying to employ. And so I think that it's important to be able to mash up different resolution systems. For example, I right now I'm working actually on the combat system. And one of the resolution systems that I was looking at was how I would approach initiative. Am I going to do initiative? If I'm not going to do initiative, what is the alternative? If I do initiative, how are we going to do that? Is that going to be rolling a random dice? Is it going to be positional? Is it going to be based on some other statistic? What's going to determine how we go into a combat order? Or are we ever going to go into combat order? Maybe we never roll initiative and we just go with whoever wants to take up the bill next. So I've been playing with this a lot. One of the things that I have been contemplating is a non-initiative system. where, yeah, your players don't roll a die, they don't use a statistic. There's no outside forces telling them you're going at this point. Instead, it is okay, you can go if you wish to, or whoever has a thought, your turn, you can go. My my brain gets caught up in that, or hitched on that idea. On one hand, it is a very narrative driven system to have no initiative. On the other hand, though, there are players who are not, who will not take the initiative to make a move if they're not forced to. There are people who will be too shy or too disassociated, and kind of step into the background and not really do anything because they don't have to do anything. Part of me is really worried about those kinds of players. And so with that in mind, I kind of thought about a different system. And with the second system, the second initiative system, I thought about what constitutes a dragon battle. So if I'm thinking about dragons, I think about two things. I think about how scary they are or how quick they are. With this second idea of an initiative system that I had, if the dragon, and this could be, one dragon, this could be a group of dragons, but if there is any sort of sneaking or surprise elements involved, where it is not a straightforward, we're meeting on the battlefield and just attacking each other kind of thing. If there is any sort of question of, are they going to notice me before I, get the drop on them? Any sort of surprise or potential surprise involved. In those cases, the initiative system defaults. And it's going to basically be the average of your group of dragons. So, let's say we have a group of 3 dragons, for example. So their average, I forget why I ended up calling the stat, but we'll call it agility right now, just for the purposes of the stream. So you take the average agility of your 3 dragons. So let's say there's a 5, a 10, and a 15. You add those all together, divide them by 3. You're going to have, what is that? God. That's going to be an average of 10. But the idea I have is you take the average, so 3 dragons, 5, 10, 15, average of 10, but then you subtract the number of dragons that you have. So it's 10 minus 3. And the reason for this is because the larger the group of dragons gets, the more difficult it is, in my opinion, for them to sneak. So if you have 1 dragon, and and they've got a an average of 10, that or their agility is 10. It's 10 minus 1, so that's 9. 9 is a whole lot better than a 7, which would be the average if you had 3 dragons. Let's say now you have 10 dragons. If you have 10 dragons and their average is 10, but have 10 minus 10, that's going to be a 0. And so the idea is that the more dragons you have, the worse it's going to be for you to, or the more difficult it's going to be for you to sneak, to get surprise. Now, I haven't exactly figured out the perception system for how someone perceives someone who's sneaking. It's probably going to be something like assessment or something like that, but it's going to be a mental stat. And I think that unless, like off the top of my head, I think that unless they are particularly keeping watch for air raids or people, or on guard, anticipating that someone's going to come and attack them, I think that I will just automatically, the sneaker always gets the first round of combat type thing, or the sneaking group gets the first round of combat. I do like, so in the One Ring system, if you sneak, or if you have 2 groups, so if you have your enemies and your allies, the allies always go before the enemies. So it's always all the allies go and then all the enemies go, and it back and forth like that. I kind of like that system where, instead of everyone rolling initiative and having an enemy, ally, enemy, ally, enemy, back and forth like that. I think I like the idea of, okay, one group goes now, and then the next group goes. It allows everyone to kind of get into whatever positions they want, kind of like a board game. Everyone kind of moves into their positions, and then the next group can sit back, assess what they've done, and then make their moves from there. I think that it also allows for both the enemies and the players to set up more interesting tactics, because I cannot tell you how many times I have been playing a TTRPG and I'm like, okay, so-and-so did this, so I'm going to do this. But there's been X number of enemies that have gone since that player's turn, and because of all the things the enemies did, I now have to change my plan and think, okay, that's not going to work because that enemy moved here, and this enemy moved there, and it blocks my line of sight. So instead, I'm going to do this thing. Sometimes that makes for more interesting combat, or more interesting plays. But sometimes it's really disheartening when you think, oh man, they got into that position, so now I'm going to do this, and have that player be like, oh, I can't do that anymore. Okay, well, I guess I'm just gonna firebolt. So I think that it's more interesting to do it that way. I don't know. I think that it's more interesting. I think that I would like to play a system where you group one after the other. All enemies together, all allies together. But all right, I'm going to take a quick 5-minute break here to get some more coffee. But stick around, everyone. We will be right back in 5 minutes. right, I lied. I didn't make more coffee. I forgot that I already had my max amount of coffee this morning, so um, I guess there's no more coffee for me. But that's all right. We are back anyways. So let us dive back in. So in the cases of sneaking, we're going to have some uh, various mechanics in place for initiative in those styles. However, in the cases of, okay, this army's sizing up this army, initiative will be done a different way. And I'm going to have a statistic specific to dragons called presence. And the idea is the more terrifying or large a dragon is, the more presence they have, the more terrified you become as, a human facing down this giant dragon. So dragons will have something called presence, and really, spoiler alert, but in the book series there is also these basically evil dragons. They will also have presence. So in the cases where you have two armies facing each other down, you're going to have an initiative system where you take the average presence of all of the folks, the creatures in the army. So let's say you have 3 dragons, a 5, a 10, and a 15 for presence, an average of 10 for presence. But then what you do, instead of like with the sneaking where you subtract the number of dragons, you add the number of dragons. So in the case of 3 dragons, you add a 3, so it would be a 13 for presence. With the idea that the more dragons you have, the more presence you have, the more terrifying you are, and you're perceived as a bigger threat. So the idea is that eventually, like if you have, hundreds of folks against, maybe 50, they have more presence, so they are more terrifying, and it's going to make that smaller group feel more apprehensive about making the first move. So it is more likely that the larger group is going to move first, and that the smaller group of dragons, or the smaller group of combatants, I should say, would only be able to muster up their courage, to muster up the ability to make a move because they have to. Hello, Bobicus. Welcome to the chat. So that's the 2 ideas I have for my initiative system. As for when we have a combat that is not on Dragonback, so there are going to be essentially some situations where combat does not happen on Dragonback. What I've been thinking is like in a hand-to-hand combat, 1 versus 1. I think that I will leave it up to the players to decide between 2 things. They could try to move more quickly, but be able to do less things because they're moving too quickly. Or they could sit back and assess. And if they sit back and assess, they could be able to do more things, but they wouldn't be the one to make the first move. so they could potentially get injured because they're not putting themselves forward. Um, I've been debating how exactly to approach this, but I think for a 1v1, um, letting the players decide that scenario, whether they're going to sit back or whether they're going to dive in, I think is the best way to approach it. And then I think I would just go, um, in cases of a tie, the player goes first, um, just to keep it relatively simple. Um, I don't know what I still have been debating what I will do when it comes to a non one-on-one rider combat system. So in like a ground assault where you have multiple enemies, multiple players, what do you do in those cases? I've been debating what exactly I want to do with that. I I don't want it to be too different from how I'm approaching other things, so I might end up making another statistic for the players, similar to presence for dragons. Um, I just haven't quite decided how exactly I want to approach that just yet. Um, but it looks like my baby is awake. Um, so, unfortunately, I do have to call the stream here to go look after him. But I want to thank everyone who stopped by today. I'm hoping that I will be able to stream a little bit more next week, hopefully, with any luck. But if you guys would like to tune in tonight, I will be streaming our live play of Lord of the Rings 5e, The Long Dark of Moria, for our 4th episode, as we have just arrived in Rivendell. So be sure to catch that at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So in approximately, what is that? 8 hours. Yeah. So if you want to tune in about 8 hours, we will be streaming that live. In the meantime, I hope everyone has a fantastic rest of your Monday, and take care of yourselves.